Welcome back to Taking Stock. The Caribbean Alternative Investment Association, CARAIA, has recently been formed, and their chairman, Chris Williams, is here to tell us all about it. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how you doing, Kalina?
I'm good. I have a latte for you in the back.
that's low. That's low.
No,
that's low.
no, seriously though.
That's low.
A lot of people were upset with you about that. Do you want to clarify anything before we jump into the meat of the matter today?
Well, at the end of it, as you know, a lot of people would have recognized from listening to the audio, we were in a relaxed environment and we were having fun. So it was a flippant comment. It was just in the heat of the moment.
It was meant in jest.
It was meant in jest.
It sounded like a joke to me.
Yeah, it was meant in jest. However, at the core of it, the fundamental point remains that home ownership is something you're going to have to prioritize ahead of consumption and even ahead of motor vehicle. I mean, as you can see, a lot of the demand for loans is coming in the form of automobile loans. And I think that those things should be delayed in preference for home ownership, because we live on an island and real estate market is limited, and it's only been going one direction.
Yeah, and the issue of affordable housing is always a hot topic.
It's always a hot topic.
The Prime Minister was just talking about it this week as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've never personally bought a house that I didn't think at the time I was buying it, it was expensive.
Yeah.
Every time I bought a house, I said, boy, this house is ridiculously expensive. And then 10 years later, I look back at it and like, wow, that's a good price. So, prioritize that investment. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Prioritize that investment ahead of your consumption needs, ahead of motor vehicle, ahead of, all those other things, because home ownership is a great investment.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So let's come to CARAIA now. Now that we have that out the way.
Bury it, please.
First of all, what is alternative investment?
Great question. The investment market is divided between traditional and non-traditional, or traditional and alternative. The traditional is bonds, which we're very familiar with, government bonds and so on. Not as attractive right now, but certainly in 5-6 years ago it was very attractive. And stocks. Those are the two traditional investment forms. Non-traditional includes private equity, venture capital, mezzanine credit, real estate investment trusts, private capital, receivables financing, inventory financing. It's a wider commodities, etc. It's a wider market and a market that we now need to start to develop.
So the non-traditional alternative synonyms.
Yes, the traditional bonds, stocks, and pretty much everything else is alternative.
It's alternative. So what are the challenges in alternative investment that necessitated a whole organization being formed?
First and foremost is education. And and obviously that's why we're here to reach out to the public to say that the ecosystem for both financing and for investing is wider than just traditional, and we have seen that globally, and we want to introduce that locally. So we're just trying to widen the ecosystem, because the wider the ecosystem is, the stronger and more stable it becomes, right? So we're just trying to strengthen the ecosystem, the investment ecosystem. So what we're on the first part is that the association's mandate is to educate the public on these new alternatives. You may have seen several of them coming forward with Cygnus, with Proven, with First Rock, etc. With even with the traditional players creating alternative investment instruments. So what we're saying to the public is expect a wider variety of investment opportunities that will now start to include some non-traditional opportunities.
But who is it that you feel like you need to target more? Because you have the SMEs on the one hand saying we want credit, we want investment, we want this and that, and we're not getting it in the traditional sector. And then you have the people like the Provens and the Cygnus and so on, people like yourself and venture capitalists. Who needs to hear this message more?
I think that we want to deepen the market on both sides. First of all, we think that the conversation is a conversation of access to financing,
right,
as opposed to access to commercial bank financing. We don't think that the conversation is limited to commercial banking. We think people are screaming out for access to financing. We don't think the commercial banks are, especially coming off our history of the 90s, we don't think the FinSAC and so on, we don't think we want the commercial banks to try to be all things to all people. They have a certain fiduciary responsibility. We want to limit them to that. Now, outside of that, we need to now create entities that are going to fill that void. Because obviously if the commercial banks are not going to step into that space because of their fiduciary responsibilities, there's a void for SMEs and even for large businesses in terms of providing inventory financing, receivables financing, venture capital, private equity, etc. So what we're trying to do is to encourage entities to create a pool of capital to fill that void.
Before you go, Chris, I want to give you the opportunity to toot your own horn a little bit as the Proven's results recently came out and you guys are doing exceptionally well.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. The first 6 months of our financial year was released, which ended September 30, 2019, and our profits are up 500%. And that's driven primarily from core investment opportunities. And I want to speak a little bit about core. At the end of the day, Proven is essentially a holding company. Our strategy is to invest in several businesses and then consolidate the performance of those businesses for the benefit of our shareholders. And then we also are invested in real estate. So we have gone into the real estate market in a very aggressive way.
Notice.
And have done now 5 developments, all of which have sold off and have done fantastically well for us. The result is 500% up.
500%. Why was I thinking 300? A short change in your mind. So real estate is somewhere that you really see, you really want to take the company further with real estate. That's a strategy that you're pursuing even more aggressively.
I think so. I think when you take a look at the Caribbean market, not even just Jamaica, but the Caribbean market, housing needs is a significant opportunity. We're still extremely undersupplied in various market segments, and even the supply that comes forward is not at the caliber of the society, because the society has evolved in terms of its taste and its requirements and its sophistication, largely because of the internet and social media and so on. So people have become a lot more taste sensitive, and so they want to live in an environment that they're comfortable and that reflects their personality.
Yeah.
So you have to put the architects to work. It's not just putting down 4 walls and and just throwing it to the market.
So you want to keep it. You want to keep it more or less at the price point of the Braemar property, or are you going to play around with it?
No, we've learned from that.
I didn't want to say middle class.
We've learned from that. So for sure, we're coming down. We're coming down. We have 2 coming forward, 1 in Kingston, 1 in Mandeville, which are specifically targeted at a lower price point.
Okay.
We also have Ochiros, but because Ochiros is a little bit more touristy and Airbnb, that's not necessarily targeted at the residential community. That's more a slash between residential and tourist. But certainly from the standpoint of the residential community, we have a product coming in 2020 that's going to be a lower price point, Obviously not going to be at Braemar because that, you know, that location.
That neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah, but not far out and a much better price.
Thanks for joining me, Chris.
Thank you for having me.